Good afternoon. As Thad's older siblings, there are probably a million embarrassing stories about his childhood that we could tell you here today. But for the sake of time, we'll keep it just to a few. Of course, as older siblings, it is our duty to inform you that we taught him almost everything he knows. Thad is such a unique person, it's hard to describe him in a quick introduction speech. Well, we have gotten to experience his uniqueness through his elaborate Elvis impersonations in our living room, or his commitment to eating an entire apple, core, seeds, stem, and all. I hope some of you will go home from this convention and this year with Thad memories of your own.
It's a bit surreal to see someone who as a toddler bit me in the stomach in a grocery store grow into such an incredible leader. But Thad, as your big sister, I'm so proud of who you have become and who you are still becoming. As Thad's family, it has been our privilege to share him with you for these past 12 months. And I'm grateful that you've all gotten to experience his thoughtfulness, wisdom, humor, and of course, his quirks. It is now our pleasure to introduce my brother.
My brother.
My brother.
My brother.
My brother.
My brother.
Your 2024-2025 National FFA President, Thaddeus Bergschneider.
You got to smile like you don't need the money, love, like you'll never get hurt. You got to dance like nobody's watching. It's gotta come from the heart if you want it to work.
It's my move. The clock is already ticking. But how am I gonna make this move? If I give up my queen, the attack might be strong. It could be strong enough to win the game, but am I certain? Am I willing to give up my queen? It was an IHSA state chess match, and I was playing the first board. My team needed me to win if we were gonna beat the opposing school. But giving up my queen? Risky. In chess, the queen is the most valuable piece on the board, double the value of the next highest. To play without your queen is, well, it would be like stepping into a competition room without your FFA jacket on, or stepping onto a football field without your quarterback. You don't know what to do without it. You need your queen. Yet my eyes were telling me to give her up. Giving up a piece for a future advantage. That move is called a sacrifice. And sacrifice is a move that we see not only on the chessboard, but in all of our lives. I saw some of your faces when I said sacrifice. You went, ah, or, yeah, I know why. Because when we think of sacrifice, we think of the big things that have been done for us, like veterans serving our country. We are grateful for those sacrifices, and we know how massive that contribution is. But sacrifice, it's not just a big thing done for us. It's also a small thing that we can do for our future. It has the potential to challenge us, to improve the lives of the people we love, and to give us purpose. Together, we're going to learn how to make that move. The problem is still laid out right in front of us. I saw the sacrifice, the ability to improve my future with an attack, but I was still terrified of having to play without my queen. If I made that sacrifice, the next 15 moves were going to be incredibly tough. Just because I thought it was right didn't mean it was going to be easy. With a shaking hand, I made the sacrifice. I struggled for the next 10 moves to get my attack in line, but a few moves later, checkmate. Sacrifice could be admitting a mistake, waking up early in the morning, or being willing to do something embarrassing. But to make that move in chess and in life, we must be willing to do what is hard now for what is more valuable later. The start of sacrifice is when we do the difficult now. The reason we sacrifice in chess, it's to win. But the reason we sacrifice in life isn't to win. No, it's more of a who that motivates us to do those difficult things. I found that out during this year as a national officer, when on March 29th, that fateful day, I broke my radius bone. Scar's still right here, trying to dunk a basketball. And y'all, it's a long story. Yeah, looking at me, you probably think, he can't dunk. I found that out the hard way. This injury meant a couple ER visits, a sling, at one point, a lanyard substitute, lots of ibuprofen, and eventually, surgery. But the hardest part of that whole ordeal wasn't asking help from Emma Robinson at Missouri FFA to help cut my steak. Thank you. It wasn't trying to learn how to button my dress shirt one-handed or showering with a massive plastic sleeve on my arm. It was when Dr. Brockshaw said, in a deep voice just like this, "Thad, if you want to restore mobility and strength in your wrists for the rest of your life, you're going to have to do these exercises for 30 minutes a day." Well, as a national officer, I couldn't go visit a physical therapist, so I became Dr. Heal Thyself. The responsibility fell on me. During the day at the Missouri FFA State Convention, there wasn't time. So I find myself walking into my hotel room at midnight, happy, fulfilled, and tired. With an alarm set for 5:30 a.m., an extra 30 minutes of sleep instead of doing my exercises sounded amazing. As I lie in my bed holding my 3-pound exercise weight, because my wrist is still that weak, I start to drift off to sleep. But one image brings me back to my exercises. What if I'm a 40-year-old man who can't use his left wrist? What if I struggle to pick up my kids someday? What if I can't help a neighbor lift a couch? Those images, they brought me back to my exercises. I thought of my future self. And we can laugh, but those images, they got me through those exercises, not just that 30 minutes, not just that once, but every night for the next 3 months. That physical therapy, that was a sacrifice where I had to do the difficult now so my future self could have a healthy wrist. When we sacrifice for the future of a who. It could be your friend in the next hour, your grandparents in the next week, or your future self in 20 years. All of those sacrifices are made so those people can gain the great. Sacrifice. Do the difficult now, gain the great in the future. What does the great look like for us and for others? For us, sacrifice could be using our free time to apply to scholarships or working so that we can take our next step in education. Challenging ourselves to meet another FFA member or state officer before we leave convention, even though it's uncomfortable. Ditching the easy entertainment of a movie or scrolling on TikTok and trying out a new hobby that you can continue to develop. Sacrificing the status quo and addressing a disagreement with a sibling or friend so that you can remain close in the future. For others, sacrifice might look like hanging out with your grandparents for a night instead of going out with your friends, helping your parents wash the dishes instead of starting on your homework, answering the "how was school" question with more than "good" or "fine," telling your friend that they have something in their teeth, or more importantly, that you disagree with an action that they're about to take, standing up for someone who's being mistreated. Whose future are you willing to sacrifice for? Those sacrifices allow us and others to gain the great. They impact the future. But what I didn't realize is that sacrifice also impacts the present. Ari had to teach me that. I first met Ari Mota in the Tennessee candidate holding room at the Tennessee FFA State Convention. Let me hear it, Tennessee. When I walked in, everyone was nervous, waiting for the moment when Mr. Brown would walk in and announce the next candidate who had to interview. Amongst that chaos, Ari seemed just fine. I wondered, how was she at peace? Well, this is what I learned. Growing up, neither of Ari's parents had graduated from high school, and they worked hard days and nights to provide her for her family. As Ari grew up, she helped do the same. She worked to help pay bills at times, and she took care of her brother, Manuel, who was in a wheelchair. To be in FFA, Ari had to sleep less and plan more. To help her family, she had to give up opportunities like competitions on weekends. But that FFA journey, it led her to running for Tennessee FFA state office. She poured in more times to meetings, interviews, and phone calls. But then, a week before Tennessee FFA state convention, Ari's car broke down and her family lost their farm. At that moment, Ari felt the responsibility to give up on the opportunity of state office so that she could help her family. I can't imagine the kind of sacrifices she was already making and was willing to make. Ari decided to withdraw as a candidate. But before she could do that, the hours her dad had been putting in trying to fix her car paid off, and it started running again. Her family could not save the farm, but they found a new house only 2 days before Tennessee FFA State Convention. Because Ari's family had her back, she was able to run as a candidate and was elected to serve as a Tennessee FFA state officer. Ari and her parents, they sacrificed. Her parents worked to continue to make opportunities possible and provided for their family. Ari took on the difficult challenge of balancing serving FFA members and her family. And because they did the difficult, they gained the great. They gained a life where Ari walks into classrooms and makes FFA members feel seen for the very first time, and where her family gets to watch as she takes her next step in a college education, paving the path for generations and her little brother. So, how was she at peace in the holding room? You might think that because of all these sacrifices, because of all that took place, there was more pressure on her. But those sacrifices, they had actually given her a purpose that existed beyond getting a state office or not, a purpose that existed for the future of her family, a college education, and FFA members across Tennessee. Listen closely, because this is the beauty in Ari's story. When the present is not your purpose, you find purpose in the present. I'll say that again. When the present is not your purpose, when you care more about someone else's future than your own current comfort or happiness, you find purpose in the present. Today matters more because you're using it for someone else's tomorrow. Sacrifice. Do the difficult now. Gain the great in the future. Find purpose in the present. And whether y'all realize it or not, we've all experienced that purpose through the sacrifices we've made in FFA. Throughout your FFA journey, you did the difficult. You spoke in front of a room full of people for the very first time, even though you were terrified. You walked into an interview room shaking with nerves and did it anyway. You dedicated hours to your supervised agricultural experience. You tried a contest, failed, and then came back better the next year. And because we did the difficult, we gained the great. We gained a chapter and a state officer team that became our family. We gained an even larger family that during Halloween travels thousands and thousands of miles across the country to gather in Lucas Oil Stadium. Because of the sacrifices we've made in FFA for our future, we've found purpose in the present. You can't buy purpose. You can't fake it. You find it through sacrifice. Today, you have thought of a sacrifice you can make, and that sacrifice will result in a purpose. Whether you sacrifice for your future self, your friend, or your teammates, within it is a purpose to be a better version of yourself, to be a better brother or sister, to help others, or to live with integrity. Sacrifice is hard. That's the nature of sacrifice. But because of it, we get to live with a purpose in the present. Whose future are you willing to sacrifice for? What purpose are you living with in the present? A few months ago, my grandma Barb told me a story. A story about a man who lived with that purpose and who 50 years ago sacrificed for me before he even knew my name. My Grandpa Joe grew up with a stutter when he talked. When he went to school as a boy, other classmates made fun of it. And he got used to being known as the kid that others said didn't talk right. He struggled through school, graduated, and came back to the farm. But he didn't grow out of the stutter. A few years later, he married my Grandma Barb, and they found out they were having their first kid, a boy, and they were so excited. His name was Paul. But as they thought about Paul learning to talk and saying his first words, my grandpa thought about Paul listening to his stutter, developing a stutter, and struggling just like he did. So my grandpa made a commitment that as his son learned to talk, he wouldn't learn to talk like him. To do that, he would have to hold back the words. He wouldn't stutter around him. He wouldn't stutter, so he wouldn't talk. Because my grandpa sacrificed, because he held back the words, my dad grew up without a stutter or a speech impediment. He might have still been shy, but he was not shy about his ability to speak and ask questions. He excelled in school, went to college, married Janie Parrish, and had 7 children. I am his third. I grew up in a house where my parents read to me every single night. My father read me the stories of Farmer Boy and Little House on the Prairie in a strong, clear voice, a voice my grandpa gave him. I grew up without a stutter or a speech impediment, ready to learn and speak my mind. You want to know how powerful sacrifice is? Over 50 years ago, my grandpa sacrificed so that his son could speak. He didn't talk. But I'm able to stand on this stage and talk to you all right now because my grandpa sacrificed. I can talk because he didn't. And that's not just my story, that's our story. Because someone has sacrificed for you. The advisor who brought you here and helped you join FFA, a parent who continued to provide, a friend who has shown up as family. They have done the difficult so we could gain the great. We are a part of another person's purpose, whether through their actions today or actions that have amplified across generations. Will you sacrifice? The future is already being built by the choices we make, whether we sacrifice or not. But if we make that move, there's a chance that someone standing on a stage or reflecting on their life generations from now might be able to say, I can, because they didn't. But the time to make that move, it's limited. That chess clock behind me has actually been running the whole time. And as you see, my time, well, it's about up. But the other side, that's your time. And it's at one. One life to live, one choice to make. Will you sacrifice? Do the difficult now. Gain the great in the future. Find purpose in the present. It's your move.
Are you cracking jokes with the common folks? Are you serving to the well-to-do? Well, I've traveled around and I ain't found nobody quite like you. And is all this living meant to be or a happy accident? Well, in my heart you pay no rent, don't cost you nothing, not a single cent. Time together was time well spent.
Thad, you are the definition of the man in the arena. Whether it's Lucas Oil Stadium or a classroom across the country, you show up with courage, dedication, and intentionality. Your passion for bacon, black coffee, books, and basketball is only rivaled by your love for your big family. And we're so lucky we get to be a part of it. Thank you for bringing meaning to every moment and being the leader our team and our organization needed. Life will take you far, but this team will always be home. Love you, mean it. Caroline, Luke, Mary, Jack, and Abby. FFA members and guests, your National FFA President, Thaddeus Bergschneider.